Welcome to the Southern State of Golf podcast. Hi, I'm your host, John, and we are proud members of the BestBall family network of podcasts. Please go to bestball.com to check out the full listing of all the great podcasts that are part of the BestBall family network of podcasts. We're led by the Whole Story podcast with Robbie and Jonathan. They got some great stories and great guests on their particular podcast. There's Off the Deck, there's pictures on a scorecard, and there's also That's Good, Pick It Up. Great name for a podcast, and our very own Southern State of Golf. Just recently on the Southern State of Golf, we had author Tom Coyne to talk about his new book, A Course Called Home. I think it's a fantastic, fantastic interview we had. I was very fortunate to get him on. I really appreciate Tom for his time. So go to bestball.com to check out all the great golfing podcasts that are a part of the Best Ball network. Well, today's short course episode, we're going to talk about Louisiana golf. One of the things that we're going to do as part of our short course series is we're going to go through the different golf courses and the southern states that I want to play. And so, hey, Louisiana, it's your turn. We're going to talk about golf in Louisiana. Now, I will fully admit, this is one of those, I had to do a lot of research for this particular podcast. I haven't been to Louisiana myself since the early 2000s. That's when we went to a Final Four way back in the day. I want to say it was probably 2002, 2003. Didn't play golf then, but I didn't know a whole lot about golf in Louisiana. And I would challenge you this too. I wonder how many of you can name more than, say, one or two golf courses in Louisiana. I will fully admit I could name one before I did this podcast. Well, now I can name several, and I will tell you what, doing my research, I think there's a lot more better golf courses than even I gave myself, or that I even believed there was before doing the research on this. While I will say Louisiana may not be ranked as far as one of the best states for golf overall in the South, I will tell you there's some fantastic golf courses in Louisiana. And I will tell you this too, if you were to create a long weekend buddies trip and you were to rank all the states, I promise you, Louisiana wouldn't not be at the bottom. Matter of fact, they'd probably be somewhere in the middle to the top, because to me, a good buddies trip or guys trip away for a long weekend, it entails good culture, good food, maybe good hotels, good places, and good golf. Well, when you got places like Baton Rouge and, of course, New Orleans, I mean, New Orleans is one of the southern best cities out there as far as entertainment and going out and culture. You tie that with some good golf courses around New Orleans itself, you could have an outstanding golf trip down to Louisiana. Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that I used in doing research for this particular trip, I like to go on Instagram, and there's a handle, Louisiana Golf. Go figure that. Go look at Louisiana Golf on Instagram. They've got over 7,000 followers. It's a well done, professional looking, Instagram account that talks about a lot of different things, gives you some history behind Louisiana golf. It also talks about some of the outstanding golf courses that are in the Louisiana area. Of course, Louisiana is, I think, the only state in the U.S. They don't have counties in Louisiana. They got parishes. I will fully admit, my time in the SEC, when I worked with the University of South Carolina men's basketball team, Louisiana, by far and away, was one of the most unique and different states that we went to. But it was also culturally very diverse. I thought it was really cool. I think you would have a great time if you wanted to do something a little bit different. Take a long weekend down to Louisiana. This is one of those, like I said, this could be a great buddies trip from a standpoint. Maybe you got some guys that don't really love golf, but they still want to go on a trip anyway. Go to New Orleans. Go to New Orleans. Y'all can play golf during the day, go eat good food, and go have some fun later on at night. New Orleans, Baton Rouge area. I think there's some really solid golf. All right, so let's jump in, and we're going to talk about 10 courses that I would love to play in Louisiana. These are my 10 that are just my favorite. We're going to start off at number 10, the University Club of Baton Rouge. Yes, this is home of the LSU Tigers and the Lady Tigers. It's been around since the late 90s. It was redesigned by David Toms in 2010. I mean, it's one of those that's about 11 miles south of downtown Baton Rouge. It's a private club, but it looks really cool. They really lean into the LSU thing, as you would expect a university club to do that. So if you're an LSU Tiger fan, or if it's one of those you're going to go to Baton Rouge for a football game, this would be a great, great course to choose from. What it looks fantastic. Number 9 on my particular list is actually the only state-owned and run golf course in Louisiana, and it is situated, I gotta love this, Poverty Point Reservoir State Park. Doesn't sound really good to be a golf course as part of Poverty Point State Park, but it actually is a really cool looking design. And just, they got cabins down there that you could also, rent, be a part of cabins. There's a 3,000 acre man-made lake that's right there nearby. It's, ranked as one of the, top 15 courses in all of Louisiana. It looks like a really cool course. Number 8 on this list is the Country Club at Golden Nugget. Now, I know what I think. When I think of Golden Nugget, I think of casinos, but to think of something called the Country Club at the Golden Nugget, it just sounds like it's a really cool thing. You know, the the Golden Nugget Lake is on Lake Charles area. It's not, it's not particularly close to New Orleans. It's almost on 250 acres. There's a big 740 bed hotel room that's also got a casino. So this is one of those too. Maybe you don't want to go to New Orleans. Maybe you're just traveling around through business. This would be a place if you're into casinos, you're into that type of thing. It's got a really cool looking course, and it's one of the top 15 courses also in Louisiana. Right next to it, number 7 for me, and this actually, I gotta fully admit, it caught my attention initially by name. But the name of this golf course is the Contraband Bayou. It's a 2003 Tom Fazio design. It's part of it's part of a casino resort that's within the area. It's also around the Lake Charles. So I kind of put the Country Club at Golden Nugget, Contraband Bayou. They're basically kind of right next to each other, or maybe not right next to each other. It may not be the best way to say it, but they're right there. So once again, if you're a casino guy, well, you can do the casino, then you can golf, and then do that. I think that's why it's I like how it can pair off with the Golden Nugget and the Contraband Bayou. By the way, it's a cool logo. I really like the logo. And this opened back in 2015, so it's still a fairly new course. So it's something really cool to go check out. All right, number 6 on my list in Louisiana, and I think this is a really cool name, the Money Hill Golf Club. And the thing that I think is really cool, and this drew me to it, says folklore has it that pirates and smugglers once buried their loot at Money Hill Plantation. But this is a golf and country club. It's a private, private club, private community. It's known as a tough golf club. There's a lot of water in the area. It's over a 12,500 acre wooded property. But it just looks really cool. Doesn't it? Also, isn't it just something really cool that you have an opportunity to play somewhere where there might be pirates and smugglers, maybe possibly once buried their loot there? Either that, or is that just a wonderful story someone made out to be a cool name? But anyway, the Money Hill Golf Club, it just looks like something that it'd be really, really cool. Number 5, and I will tell you this, I'll tell you 1 through 5, I think are just all really outstanding. It's called the English Turn Golf Club. I mean, the English Turn Golf Club, it is right there like I say, it's in New Orleans. It's one of those where it used to, be a part of the New Orleans Open Classic that was there for a long time. It was held there between 1989 and 2006. It was designed by Jack Nicklaus. The course has every one of its 18 holes has water or has some form of water on it. So I read one place said 17 to 18. So regardless, it is a lot. And one of the things that I really liked about this particular course is I think the one hole in Louisiana that I want to play more than any other hole is their hole 15. It is a par 5. It is at the tips, par 5, 540-yard par 5. It is their signature hole. You tee off on the left-hand side. There's bunkers, but there's water all along the right. And then the green is an island green, almost very similar to 17 at Sawgrass. I want to say it is 17 at Sawgrass. But imagine if they made Sawgrass 17 into a par 5. It's a lot like that. Now imagine this hole reminded me a lot of 18 at Caledonia, except the green is an island green. And depending on how far you can hit, and it's a par 5. So I think there's one of those, if you bomb it, you might, if you go high risk and high reward, probably more high risk than high reward, you might be able to reach that green in 2. Maybe, just maybe, if you absolutely bombed it. But if you do try to bomb it too much, you might get stuck in one of those bunkers. But I think that this hole just, it looks like one of those holes that I want to play. I want to just go play the course just for that particular hole itself. But the par 72 course designed by Jack Nicklaus, I mean, it's a really cool looking course. It's funny. When I first started, I love golf courses with a lot of water on it. And English Turn has got a ton of water. But as I've gotten better at golf, or not better, actually, I don't know if that's the right way to say it or not. As I've played more golf, I don't know if I like golf courses with a lot of water because that means I tend to lose more balls and my scores aren't as good. But English Turn at number 5, frankly, may be a little underrated. So we're going to go to number 4 on the list, the Country Club of Louisiana. And this is actually ranked by top100golfcourses.com. This is ranked as their number 2 golf course in all of Louisiana. This is also a Jack Nicklaus design, and it says 5 of the greens are totally devoid of bunkers. This is one of those that, uh, they say it's kind of different from a traditional Jack Nicklaus design, but it's just, there's a lot of residential units around it, but it's just something that's really, really cool. Cool area, like I said, highly ranked. One of those when it's ranked so high, it's just one of those that you want to take a look at right away. It's a little south of Baton Rouge, and it's south of Baton Rouge, but certainly north of New Orleans. So it's one of those, if you could get on while you're in the Baton Rouge area or even New Orleans, you ought to go check it out. Number three on my list here is Creek Country Club, and it is recognized by most people as the best course in all of Louisiana. This thing was developed in 2003, Tom Fazio course. Um, it is it's within a over 1,000 acre residential development area. It's in the northern part of Louisiana. And honestly, this is probably one of the reasons for me, while I only have it at number 3 and maybe not higher, because it is in northern Louisiana. This is one of those. And once again, I'm probably not being fair here, but am I going to is this a place where I want to go travel all this way just for this particular golf course? There are some golf courses that you would travel, like Ohoopee comes to mind. I think that's in the middle of nowhere. I would certainly travel in the middle of nowhere for Ohoopee. I think you would travel to other places like maybe uh, Old Barnwell, although I don't think Aiken classifies as the middle of nowhere. It certainly doesn't. But this particular Squire Creek, I don't know if this is one of those courses that I would go to just to go play there. I don't know enough about it. And I'm maybe doing a disservice to Squire Creek, but still putting it at number 3 on my list of ones I want to play, I think it would be fantastic. This is one of those places where it is a true country club where there's a lot of different other things. They've got, tennis is big there. They got swimming pools, exercise rooms. So it's a private club, but it is always highly ranked on there. It is also, as it noted here, it's part of the I-20 corridor. So those people from South Carolina can't be that far from somewhere in South Carolina and I-20. Yeah, it absolutely is. It's a long, long, long drive. I do have to I'll tell a quick story. My last time in New Orleans, and probably for good reason, I was coming back from the Final Four. And like I said, this was early in 2000. I had to come back very next. I went up there. I think I left on a Wednesday or Thursday, and I had to come back on a Sunday because I had to teach the next day on Monday. It was my very first year teaching. And I this is when I did wake up calls at the hotel. Some people, hopefully, I'd like to think the majority of people listening to this podcast actually remembers when you went somewhere, you made wake up calls at the front desk to wake you up. Fly on an early morning flight. And guess what? The wake up call people did not make the call. So I woke up literally 30 minutes before my flight, and the airport, from what I remember from downtown New Orleans, was a solid 30, 40 minutes. So I wasn't making the flight. And so the pure panic set in of what I was going to do to try to make that flight. That's also another thing, just, I mean, it was an early morning flight. I'm still mad at myself for missing this flight. And I did not want to miss a day of school because I don't think I had, it was my first year teaching, so I didn't have many sick days built up. I didn't have any just, at the time they had days where, personal days, but you had to get those approved in advance. I just didn't want to miss work. So what I ended up renting a car and I had to drive it from New Orleans, Louisiana, all the way to Columbia, South Carolina. And to make matters worse, it wasn't even just Columbia, South Carolina. I had to return that one-way rental car to the Charlotte airport. So I basically rented the car for like 24 hours, and it cost me like, I want to say like $300-400 to rent a car one way for just one day. And I couldn't just, most people say, well, why did you just take the next flight out? Well, the problem is with the Final Four at the time, a lot of people tend to leave the Final Four typically on Sunday. One of the great things is, not great things, one of the things that people don't realize about, it's actually pretty easy to get tickets for a national championship basketball game because those are always on Monday night. What is really hard is to get tickets typically for that Saturday night of the Final Four because you got four schools. But when two of those schools leave, there's a lot of tickets that are open, flooded on the market. So a lot of coaches and other people, they leave out of the Final Four city typically on Sunday to get back to their workplaces. So after I missed the flight and I was trying to figure out how in the world to get back to Columbia, South Carolina, they said, yeah, we can get you back out. No problem. How they were typing on the screen. I made the phone call and I hear them typing in the background. Yes, let me just see here when we can get you back. Oh, great. We can get you on Tuesday morning on a flight. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work. I couldn't miss 2 days. And especially this was first year as a teacher. I didn't have hardly that much money either. So no. So yes, I rented a car and drove 14, I want to say it was 14 hours straight from New Orleans to Columbia, South Carolina. Then the next day I took the car back to Charlotte, and someone had to bring me back. I was so mad at myself. I've never once depended solely on a hotel wake-up call. I don't think I ever made a hotel wake-up call since then. So that was my short story that actually brings me a lot of pain and bad memories. But we're going to go number two. My number two golf course that I want to play in Louisiana is the TPC at Louisiana. Well, this was probably the only golf course that I could actually name in Louisiana before it. But the TPC Louisiana has hosted the Zurich Classic event on the PGA Tour since 2005. This is a Pete Dye Stadium course design. This is where you can get close. This is one of those that was designed for professional golf. It was designed for spectators. This is one of those that it just looks like a cool course. I've seen it on TV a number of times. And the thing I like too is this is a public course. This is one of the public TPC designs, and it is a relatively, they call it a bargain. You can get in there. It's not going to cost you $300-400. It's anywhere from between $100 and $200 to play. And so to play a tour level golf course, not a tour level, a tour course between $100 and $200 in New Orleans area, I think it's fantastic. I think it looks amazing. I think it would be a great course if you've had an opportunity to play it. So my number one course, and I will admit, I did not know this until I started doing research for this golf course at the Metairie Country Club in Louisiana, in New Orleans area. And I think it's the club dates back to 1922. It is a Seth Rayner design. And I think that may be part of the thing for me when I was trying to pick it. I'm a big Seth Rayner fan of golf courses. Some of the ones I've gotten to play, including Yeamans Hall, which was fantastic. I love that course. It is it's been renovated a couple of times, but there's still, as they call it, plenty of golden age characteristics to be down there. It just looks awesome. I mean, it's got that private country club feel. I mean, that's, if you want to call it a negative, I don't call it a negative, but being a private country club, it's maybe a harder one to get on. But this one of those, hey, You're in New Orleans. If you get an opportunity to play Metairie Country Club, go do it. I think this would be fantastic. So I'm looking at some of these golf clubs that are around the New Orleans area. If you can go play, and anybody can go play TPC in Louisiana, and then also get on at Metairie Country Club, and then not too far away, English Turn Golf Club. Man, I tell you what, you could have 2 to 3 outstanding golf courses for a good trip down to New Orleans. So while Louisiana as a whole may not have the numbers of ton of great golf courses, you can play some great golf in Louisiana, and I'll tell you, you can put together a fantastic guys trip. And one of the things we're gonna do in the future, somewhere down the road, on the Southern State of Golf podcast, is we're gonna do the golf of the SEC. And so certainly we're gonna have to talk about Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and there's some good golf, like we've mentioned, some right here that are not far behind. So I hope you'll join us on a future episode of the Southern State of Golf podcast. I hope you'll, send us feedback. I'd love to certainly get your feedback. You can hit us up on Instagram and X at SS of Golf. You can also shoot us an email. Shoot me an email, southernstateofgolf@gmail.com. I'd love your feedback. Tell me what golf courses I may have missed in Louisiana. Like I said, those are just the 10 that popped out to me, 10 that I want to play. I know there's other good golf courses in Louisiana. Hey, if you're someone that you're passionate about Louisiana golf and you want to come on the podcast, come on, shoot me an email, an instant, a direct message. I'd love to have somebody on from Louisiana to talk Louisiana golf, because Louisiana is an important part of the South, and certainly love to talk more Louisiana golf on the Southern State of Golf podcast. Well, I appreciate your time today. Y'all have a great day.